Why did Jesus cleanse the temple? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Mark on walking through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Mark chapter 11. We're going to be reading from verses 12 to 24. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Mark chapter 11, beginning at verse 12. Now the next day, when he had come out of Bethany, he was hungry. And seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he would find something on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. In response, Jesus said to it, "Let no one eat fruit from you ever again." And his disciples heard it. So they came to Jerusalem. Then Jesus went into the temple and began to drive out those who bought and sold in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he would not allow anyone to carry wares through the temple. Then he taught, saying to them, "Is it not written, 'My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have made it a den of thieves." And the scribes and chief priests heard it and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his teaching. When evening had come, he went out of the city. Now in the morning, as they passed by, they saw the fig tree dried up from the roots. And Peter, remembering, said to him, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree which you cursed has withered away." So Jesus answered and said to them, "Have faith in God. For surely I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be removed and be cast into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them." When we studied Matthew, we noted that the two events that we just read of, the withered fig tree and the cleansing of the temple, are recorded in a different order by Matthew. In Matthew, the cleansing of the temple appeared to happen on Sunday, while Mark makes it clear that it happened on Monday. Also in Matthew, the fig tree appeared to wither and die away immediately, while Mark makes it clear that the fig tree withered gradually, with Jesus teaching the actual lesson of the fig tree on Tuesday and not on Monday, as Matthew made it seem. So is there a contradiction? No, again, we have a difference in the way the books are written. In Matthew's gospel, he had a tendency to group his stories into sections rather than presenting us with a chronological history, while Mark has been more chronological than Matthew, though he too is not presenting us with an exact chronology either. So what did we read of today? Well, first, as we alluded to, the events of verses 12 to 19 occur on Monday. Having spent the night in Bethany, Jesus and the disciples were returning to Jerusalem. Along the way, Jesus got hungry and wanted something to eat. On the side of the road, Jesus saw a fig tree with leaves on it, but Mark tells us that the time of figs was not yet. Because of this, many marvel as to why Jesus expected to find fruit here. However, from Josephus, we learn that in that region, figs could hang on the trees for 10 months of the year. So the leaves Jesus saw would have been older leaves, and thus he was expecting to find older figs. This fig tree, though, had none, and thus was unfruitful. Jesus had no use for the tree, and thus cursed the fig tree to never again bear fruit. This is the only miracle of Jesus, as far as I can tell, that involved cursing something, but he did so to teach his disciples a lesson we'll get to in a few moments. Coming now to Jerusalem, Jesus goes into the temple and sees what is going on there, commerce. Was it wrong for the people to exchange money or to sell animals for the sacrifices? No, for Deuteronomy 14:24-26 would teach us that the buying of animals or other things in order to fulfill the Lord's commands under the law was not wrong. Then what was Jesus' problem here? They were using the temple, the house of God, and a place of prayer as a place to conduct business. There was nothing wrong with the activity. What was wrong was where they chose to conduct the activity. They could have set up those places outside the temple grounds and been completely fine, but since they turned the house of God into a den of thieves, Jesus overturned the tables and quoted for them Jeremiah 7 verse 11 while he did so. The question then arises, did Jesus sin by getting angry and casting out the money changers? In asking this question, I feel that people misunderstand anger and its relation to sin. Being angry in and of itself is not sin. In Ephesians 4:26, Paul writes, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down in your wrath." The problem with anger is when we're angry without a cause, or we let our anger get out of control, or we don't let go of our anger, which leads us into all sorts of other sins, such as hatred. Jesus was in full control here. He had a reason to be angry, which was that the Jews had perverted the use of the temple. Now, Jesus did not allow himself to hold on to his anger. When the event was over and the situation rectified, he wasn't angry anymore. So no, Jesus did not sin here. The scribes and the Pharisees had seen what he had done, though, and wished to kill him. Mark tells us their reasoning for doing so is that they were afraid and the people were following Jesus' teachings and ignoring them. Jealousy and envy are powerful emotions that can often lead us down the paths that we shouldn't want to be traveling on, a fact that we need to remember today. Now, I'm sure that Jesus did other things on this day, but Mark does not record them, so we'll move on. The next day they traveled on the same road and saw the fig tree that Jesus cursed the previous day, and it had withered. What was the lesson here? Jesus told the disciples to have faith in God. They were amazed at how quickly the fig tree withered, but Jesus said to them that if you have faith and do not doubt, they could say to the mountain to be cast into the sea, and it would. Was Jesus speaking literally? Perhaps, for the fig tree actually did wither. However, symbolically, Jesus was teaching them that with faith and prayer, they would be able to do whatever God wanted them to do. For the disciples, that meant performing miracles, but for us today, it means whatever is righteous. With that, our time is up today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Mark chapter 11, verses 25 to 33, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.